So this we're going to look at a person who's been uh, instrumented for walking, and this animated skeleton's been reproduced, and we're going to see the ground reaction force here against the skeleton, and that will help us look at the kinetics, or the moments and powers that are being generated at the different joints of the limb. First, though, we're just going to cover the changes in the ground reaction force and the footfall patterns that occur. So that's what we're going to cover in this video. So let's just watch a walking cycle. Okay, so basically here the person is approaching the force plate, and we're going to be looking at the left leg here. And so essentially we can see that the hip is flexed a little bit, the knee is extended, the ankle's in neutral or slight dorsiflexion, and in that position the heel, so we kind of glide this forward, is going to strike, and we can see the ground reaction force here in blue just beginning. So that's the start of the gait cycle, or initial contact. So that's the initial contact phase. Then if we watch here, so then the foot at this point, right here, right there, that's we're at foot flat, and we can see that the opposite limb is just about to come off. So right here, so foot flat and opposite limb lift off are about the same, and so that's the 10% of the walking cycle. So we can see now the positions of the joints has changed. We have still some amount of hip flexion. The knee is now flexed slightly, so about 20 degrees, and the ankle is fairly neutral because we can see that the tibia is almost directly vertical. So now the next point we're looking for is when the heel comes up. And so the heel starts to rise right in here, right about there somewhere. Okay, and so essentially the heel really starts to come up just as the opposite limb passes in front of the stance limb, and that's right around 30% of stance, or of the gait cycle. That's 30% of the gait cycle. So we can notice essentially the positions, so we'll focus on the kinematics here. So we notice the hip is toward neutral or slightly extended, the knee is extended again, and the ankle is moving toward peak dorsiflexion. Okay, and what we're going to notice is as the heel comes off, what's interesting is that there's a little bit more dorsiflexion even occurring. So basically the next phase, okay, is going to be marked by when the opposite heel touches the ground. And notice that at this point there's not that much more dorsiflexion occurring, some slight amount. Okay, but then pretty much as we go to opposite heel contact, we're just going to start to transition into some plantar flexion on the stance limb. Okay, and so that next point, so we have 30% here, just as the heel starts to come up, and then opposite heel contact would be 50% of the gait cycle. So now we're halfway through, and after this point, what we're going to see at 50% is the joint angles. So there's opposite heel contact right there. Boom. Okay, we'll see the knee now is slightly flexed, the hip is extended, and the ankle's starting to plantar flex. So if we focus in on the stance limb, we'll notice now we see rapid plantar flexion, knee flexion, and beginning of hip flexion. So that's toe off. So right at toe off on the stance limb is 60% of the gait cycle. Okay, so now we go into initial swing. And initial swing will actually be when the swing limb is adjacent to the stance limb. So here, so from 60% to 73% of stance, that's the initial swing phase, and the markers for that are from toe off here, so it's toe off when we stop seeing the ground reaction force, toe off to when the ankle is adjacent to the opposite ankle. So that's the end of initial swing, and then initial swing to end that. So mid-swing phase is next, and that's from when the feet are adjacent to when the tibia is vertical. So right about here. Okay, so now we notice the tibia is vertical. Okay, and that's the end of mid-swing. So mid-swing goes from when the ankles are adjacent to when the tibia is vertical. So right there. Okay, and so that's the end of mid-swing. And then from terminal swing is from when the tibia is vertical to when the knee is fully extended and the opposite heel hits the ground, which is about right there. Okay, those are the phases or the footfall events of the walking cycle.